Welcome to the show, everybody. I hope you're doing well today and everything's going really well. We have a really great show today, so you're not going to want to miss it. It's going to be fantastic. And we're doing the Northern California Speedway Week. Welcome to the Northern California Week in the Hive. And we have a really great week. It's all Northern California Week, starting with the amazing Russell Green, the Rocket in the Hive. Then following Russell, we have the promoter of Fast Fridays, the one, the only, Dave Joyner. After Dave, we have a rider, a very good young rider, very talented, Mr. Reese Todd. It's going to be an all Northern California week this week in the Hive. You're not going to want to miss it. We may have some surprise visitors, so stay tuned. All week, Northern California is in the Hive. Northern California in the Hive. Be there! Yeah, be there! We have a really great show, and if you like it, please subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell because we have lots of great shows. Like today, we have a really good show. And we'd like to introduce to you the promoter of Fast Fridays. This guy is really great, and like I said, he's the one, the only, Mr. Dave Joyner. Hey, Dave.
My goodness. Glad to be here, Brian.
Oh, thank you so much for joining us in the Hive today. Really, really appreciate it.
Looking forward to having the evening with everybody out in the world.
We all miss you, Dave. We miss you at Fast Fridays.
Yeah, I miss Speedway so much sometimes. I had to go clear down to Bakersfield from Auburn. It's only about a 4-hour drive, but we've been visiting Paris Speedway for the events that Steve Evans is putting on. And then on Saturday night, me and my daughter Jordan went down to Bakersfield and saw a really good Speedway down there. So we're getting a little bit of a fix and getting out there and keeping things moving.
Nice. So you went out, so you liked the track in Bakersfield, huh?
Yeah, that they have a really good facility there already, and they've groomed it up really nice for Speedway. They need to get a few things under control. It started out real dry, and they had to bring the water truck out after the first heat. But those guys will they know what they're doing down there, and they'll get it dialed in. And Steve Evans will continue to bring events there to Bakersfield, and really, really good, really upswing event for sure.
That's great. Yeah, well, Bakersfield's kind of hot out there, so the track would probably dry out pretty fast. So I guess they need the water truck.
It was sunny and very windy there, and that really helped dry it out for sure.
Yeah, really. Yeah, that made it rough, I think, on the promoters keeping that track, good condition for the riders.
Yeah, I think they were a little bit. They did a great job preparing it, but in the end, for the first heat, they should have had it a little bit wetter. But the evening went on really well, and they did bring the water truck out several times, and I was really satisfied from a promoter's perspective that Steve Evans and the crew down there at the Speedway did a fantastic job. It was a good event, really exciting too.
That's amazing. So that's really. So how did you get started in promotion? I mean, what got you doing this thing?
Well, that's a good question. Let's see, probably close to 30 plus years ago. Probably closer to 40 years ago, actually. I started working out here at the Gold Country Speedway, it was called at the time, for John Houston. And I started working for them as a corner worker. One of the guys I worked with in the auto parts business was the starter and passing out posters and stuff. And what's that about? And he says, "Oh, we're starting up Speedway. We're moving from Cal Expo up to Auburn, and it'll start and run every Friday nights." And that's where I started out here in turn 3, actually. And then Houston left the promotion business here a couple of years later. It was started up by Ted Scruggs and Rich Vandermeeden. And those guys ran it for, I think, about 6 or 7 years. And then they faced a year that was absolutely miserable. Their first, I think it was 3-4 events were absolutely rained off. One of them was an American final that they had scheduled, and it had to get canceled. So those poor guys found themselves working a job that they had to pay to work at. And so they decided to sell the rights. And at that point, me and my brother Mark purchased the rights to do Speedway out here at the Gold Country Fairgrounds. And that was somewhere around 27 years ago. And we haven't looked back since, really, until COVID hit. And of course, 2020 had the potential of being perhaps our best year ever. We had scheduled in 2019 a Sidecar National Championship, and that was really looking good. But we ended up kind of ending with a bit of a rain out, and we had to cancel it and run it the next day. And we lost a lot of money on that deal, and that's the promotions business. And so that's kind of how we got started. And in 2020 was looking good. We were returning with that. We were on a real upswing as far as our promotions were going. And we've really, over the years, have dialed this operation in and was doing really well. So we're really happy with and I learned the promotions business from the retail auto parts business. I was trained by Napa Auto Parts on how to attract customers, really. And I turned that into a bit of a model that I continued to polish and perfect as far as Speedway goes. And we became really an institution, if you would, here in the city of Auburn. We've joined the Chamber of Commerce, and we've been members there for 26 years. I'm involved in a lot of other events in the Auburn community, and definitely I know the mayors, the mayor of Auburn, the city council people, almost every business in Auburn. I'm familiar with the owners of it, and of course have extended a suggestion that they sponsor our events.
Nice. We have a little video here, Dave, of Fast Fridays. It's kind of an older video, so excuse me. Is it like 2010 or something? I don't know.
Oh my. There's a lot of those out there.
There's a lot of old videos of Fast Fridays because it's an old venue. It's been around for a long time, and you've done a great job. And it's really like a home atmosphere. That's what's so cool about you've done with Fast Fridays. You've made it kind of a country home atmosphere that, you know, everyone enjoys going there. So it's really a nice venue that you've done.
It's easy to do, Brian, because the community of Auburn is very close-knit, and basically we invited our friends and businesses and families and everything to a party every Friday night, and they all responded.
That's great. Well, let's take a look at Fast Fridays.
We're at the fairgrounds in Auburn, California for Fast Fridays Speedway races.
What's your name, Pop?
Al Griffin.
Is it okay if we film you?
Yeah, it's fine. All the way. I'm here to be filmed.
Who's your favorite racer?
Mike.
Give me the lowdown.
He's my neighbor. He lives right underneath me. That's how I get in here every Friday. Don't cost me beer.
Who do you think's going to win tonight?
Bryce, I hope.
What happened to him last week?
He hit the wall over there on number 4.
Is he okay?
Oh, yeah. Just messed his bike up. That was the only race he had that night. Sprung his frame and his tire. So that ended that for the night.
The racing here is down home. The pits are old school and informal. It's a world away from the glitz and glamour of the Grand Prix paddocks of Europe. Riders typically haul their own equipment and tune the bikes themselves.
Tell me about your bike.
I don't know what's fast.
Speedway is a family tradition. In some families, everyone but Mom is racing, and Grandma and Grandpa are in the stands. The kids' races are as popular as the expert classes, with the kids in last place getting as much applause as the winners. As you watch this great spectacle, you can't help but feel that you're having a glimpse into days gone by, when riders on simple machines with no brakes slugged it out on the dirt bull rings around the country for the simple satisfaction of winning.
Oh, wow. He was a classic.
Do you know the old guy there? Do you know him?
Yeah, I've given him rides home from Fast Fridays many times. Al's kind of the local indulger with the libations for sure. And yeah, Al's known my Jordan's mom, Marianne, her whole life, and she's just turning 50 this year. So Al's not with us anymore, though. I think he's finally succumbed to his habits, and he led a good life and really did love coming down here to Fast Fridays, like a lot of people in Auburn do. We had one guy who had his 100th birthday here, and he died the next day. Rusty was his name. He was kind of a guy that looked a little bit like that fella there, Al. And Rusty would come here every Friday night and sit in the front row, and he was always a pleasure to get advice from, and he always gave it to us.
I'm sure he didn't have a loss for words, that's for sure.
No, it's amazing. Our community here in Auburn is really, I'm so thankful to our customers, longtime supporters of Fast Fridays, Motorcycle Speedway, myself and my family.
Yeah, you have a really great group of fans and riders. I mean, everyone's like a close-knit community there, and everyone just, Mike Bass moved up there, and all the Bass, family lives up there, and then you have Larry Shaw, and you have all these great, Speedway people living up there. And then you have all these really great riders, Gennaro, you got Russell Green, you have all these really great Speedway talent that living up in your area. And then you have the SOS team, Lawrence, and you have all these you have a big base of people up there in Northern Cal. That's all right. Yeah,
we kind of have made most of the riders in Speedway, and of course, years ago we introduced the Pee-wees to our Speedway, and every year we limit it to 25 speedways to sign up, and I can tell you I could probably sign up 60 or 80 of them to run out every week. We just don't have the room on our program, and that's where it all starts. Fast Fridays has always been a supporter of Youth Speedway. Me personally, I have, and this goes back to when the kids weren't allowed to race. Because they had some issues with some people getting sued and youth riders and stuff. And then the riders couldn't ride here at Auburn, the youth riders, and then they couldn't ride at Costa Mesa and whatever tracks. So I actually went down with Linda Hedden and the Hedden family. Sorry, I can't really remember exactly who the kids were, but we went down to Lodi Cycle Bowl and ran down there kind of outlaw. And we kept doing it, and then finally they were able to come back here to Auburn first and foremost, and then finally to the other tracks when they figured out it was going to be okay.
So do you have any problem with insurance, or is it not a problem there? Like all, because it's difficult nowadays with insurance and all.
Yeah, we don't have a problem getting insurance, thanks to the American Motorcyclist Association, the AMA. We have been sanctioned from day one with the AMA, and that's who we get our insurance through. And it's a specialized motorcycling insurance, motorcycle racing insurance. And, every week we're required here at the fairgrounds to have, I think it's $2 million in public liability insurance. And years ago, when we started promoting events down at Daytona, they required $5 million. So that's when 15, 18 years ago, something like that, we extended our policy up to $5 million and have continued to carry that on through. And knock on wood, we have never had a claim. So
Nice.
it's pretty remarkable. I think all of our riders do a pretty good job. Our officials do a great job enforcing the rules. Myself, as far as the person that oversees the track, I've been to tracks in many different countries. I've probably visited well over 300 racetracks in the world, and every time I go to them, I study what's going on, and especially look at all the safety improvements that they've made over the years, especially in the Grand Prix. And the most notable safety thing they have in the world is probably the personal protection barrier, otherwise known as an air fence. But also I worked for the FIM on the Track Racing Commission, and
Nice.
I was dispatched to do track inspections and make sure all the safety things that the FIM had as tools were being implemented and reinforced. And I've brought all that back to Fast Fridays over the years. So
Yeah, you have done a really good job. I have a video here of a crash, and we're going to go ahead and see how good of crash wall that Dave Joyner has over there at the Fast Fridays.
Receiver coming out of 1. The Buzzsaw, Ben Essere out of 4. Nasty Nate Perkins out of 2. He had a good run on that last one. He picked up 3 big ones. Bryce Starks coming out of 3. Nate Perkins coming back with it. Whoa!
That was pretty great.
I have to say, did you see all those people behind the wall scattering? And we have to have a security guard there because people tend to put their kids on top of it and set their beers up there. And we've got a yellow line that's painted back there, and they have to stay back. But every time that security guard turns his back, they come back up there. But I should show them that video, huh?
Yeah, stay behind the yellow line, everybody. And you notice nobody got hurt, so that was good, right, Dave?
Yeah.
No lawsuits.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we've
Oh.
had a few people get hurt. Bobby Hedden broke his back running into the wall. He got a little bump, and it just he shot right into it. And to this day, there's a fence there that's bent back from him running into it. But he's recovered pretty good over the years and has ridden a little bit since then.
Yeah, he was a great rider, Bobby Hedden. He was fantastic in his day, for sure.
Yeah, he would really love to pass around the outside.
Yeah. Yeah, you can get in trouble. I was talking to Russell Green the other day, just last show. Russell Green was on the show, and he was telling me that the motorcycle jumpers all said that the Speedway riders are crazy, and then the Speedway riders say that the motorcycle jumpers are all crazy. And Russell said that the no brakes and going straight into the wall, that's crazy. And we just saw that right now.
I can remember years ago, Brian, we were doing a Mike Bass school out here. And Mike, a lot of times they're just Division III beginner guys, low yardage, all that kind of thing. And, he always said the first thing he'd do is he'd point to that wall and say, don't go out there, and that's the biggest problem Division III guys have is going wide, coming out of the turn. And he really stressed to them, stay down low and keep it down low, and you'll get around the track much safer. And it's true.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you have room to, if somebody, like that video we just saw, when somebody hits you, of course, that was a reactionary situation, but he didn't have time to put it down. But normally you can, lay the bike down if you're on the pole. But if you're on the outside, like Hedden was, you're just going to, you're going to go into that wall hard.
Yeah, absolutely.
The closer, I was always a pole rider when I rode. I did not like riding out there because I knew that I had a couple seconds to react before I hit the wall if I did that. And luckily for me, in my life, I never went into the wall that I know of one time. So being on the pole really helped me stay safe.
I took Mike Bass' advice whenever I did race, and I have a very limited racing career out here at Fast Fridays. But I definitely didn't ever want to tangle with that wall. And, another guy that told me about the wall here at Fast Fridays, it's really tough. Peter Carlson, PK, he came here twice and raced in the USA versus the world. And I was walking with him around the track a bit, and we were just talking about stuff. And USA versus the world is always in October, late part of the year. So all the freshly painted wall is, of course, had a season and stuff of people running into it. And there's tire marks on it and gouges. And he said, well, I know one thing. I don't want to run into that wall. It looks like many people have. And it's true. They have.
No. So you raced for a short period of time? I didn't know that. What happened? You just rode for a few weeks or a year or something?
I raced bikes when I was a young kid. I raced motocross a little bit. I raced at El Toro Speedway. A lot of people don't know this. I raced motocross there. One of the first times they had motocross, and I had a little Indian Boy racer. It was a 50cc bike. So they put me in with the XR. Well, I think they were SL 70s, but they became XR 75s. And they put me in with those. But at El Toro, it was a speedway and had a wall. And you'd go around the inside of the speedway. And then there was a ramp that went up over the wall and then climbed up this hill. And I had to actually get off my bike and push it up the hill like the 50s had to do, because I only had a 50cc engine, but it was a little mini racer. And so it was miserable for me because all the other kids would go past me while I was pushing my bike up the hill. It was really kind of comical. So that was the start of my racing career, or limited racing career. I raced a little bit of desert and cross country. I was never a great racer. I wasn't that brave, but many years ago, John Cook kind of taught me how to ride a speedway bike. I have to say, I'm very thankful to him. And he showed me how to do it, how to use your skid shoe and shift your weight on the bike. And I actually had a pretty tidy style and really practiced a lot, and decided somewhere along the line that I would race on my birthday, and did that for many years. But I think when I got into my maybe 55, 56, it was my last year of racing. And I was always just a Division III guy. Never won the main event here at Fast Fridays, but I have won main events at other tracks. But I don't know, maybe I didn't want to win
Nice.
because I was the promoter, you know, and didn't want to create any controversy. But yeah, I can ride a Speedway bike. I feel like I got a pretty good style. And believe me, I've watched some of the best Speedway riders in the world around tracks all over the world. So I kind of at least think I know what I'm doing.
Yeah. Well, it's a good thing you didn't win, because everyone would boycott your track, because they say Dave's making all the money as a D3 rider, that $20 bill he's making. So we don't like Dave no more.
Yeah, I think it's up to $65 for Division III main event. But no, I never really. I won some heat races out here, but never and made main events. But there's always been pretty decent Division III and Division II riders here at Fast Fridays. Our guys are hard charging. Whenever somebody comes up here from Southern California, they've got their hands full. A lot of them have come up here and been successful, but we've got good Division II and Division III riders that are. Some of them are developing. Others are kids that are just coming up and hoping to move into Division I. There's a lot of really good epic battles out here, and I think we've got the best riders around.
You do. You have so much young talent. And I mean, I rode up there a couple times and I got my butt wiped over there. So I know. I remember it was tough. You know, the track was a little different. Do you remember me up there getting wiped out? Do you remember that?
I don't remember exactly, Brian, but yeah, sure I do. I remember it was more on your second stage of your career, wasn't it?
Yeah, I was older rider, and I went up with Buck Blair and then Charlie Venegas. I have a funny story I should tell you real fast. I probably shouldn't really tell you, but after the race, we went up there with Buck Blair, and I rented that hotel room, the Motel 6 or whatever, Motel 8, over by the track. And then Charlie Venegas was living in Southern California, and then Charlie said, "Can I come and stay with you, you guys in the hotel room after the race?" And I said, "Okay, no problem." So then we go to the room, and then I go in there's only one bed, and then I go lay down, and then Buck jumps into the bed, and I go, "Buck, I don't normally like sleep with guys, you know, like we're not like into like guys, you know, we're motorcycle racers." And then Charlie Venegas said, "Can I join you in the bed?" And I said, "No, Charlie, you cannot join me." So I kicked both of those guys out of the bed, and I made them sleep in the closet.
Are you telling the truth, Brian?
I got rid of those guys. I don't like Buck Blair in my bed. I don't like Charlie the Edge in my bed. Get rid of those guys.
Yeah. The story around Speedway, we should be making a reality television show, but we just can't gain momentum on that. There's some interesting stuff that have happened in my 30-plus year career organizing and being around Speedway.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, I told Buck and Charlie, I paid for this hotel, so I get the bed. And these guys were all tired. And I go, "Get in the closet, you guys. Get the hell out of this bed." And then they were like mad at me.
Nice. Yeah, it's all in good fun, isn't it?
Yeah, we had a good time and stuff. And, you know, it was really good. And so now what happened in 2020? You guys had I think it was one race where there was no fans, correct? What happened with that race? Just this past year, you had a race and there was like with the COVID thing, and there was just a few people in the stand, or nobody in the stands actually.
Yeah, there was nobody in the stands. We were allowed to have events here at Fast Fridays, and that's deemed by the Placer County Health Department actually. So we are able to have events, Speedway events, and but without spectators. And the Speedway really is difficult to run without spectators and pay for itself. Steve Evans finds a way, and I have to tell you, he's been very creative and has been able to work within the perimeters that are set up by the counties that he does business in. The first event that we did, I caught wind of a drive-in concert. First off, my daughter went to one in Sacramento, and it was a concert that was broadcast, a country western concert. I don't remember who the artist was, but it was very successful at this. And when she told me about it, I kind of, well, that kind of is interesting. And of course, I'm sitting around here trying to figure something out to do, you know. And then all of a sudden, I caught wind of this guy that was going to do a drive-in concert here in Auburn. And so I called that organizer up and said, hey, you know, you're going to do your event on Saturday night. What do you think of running a speedway race? And the people can come up, and he had 3 large, very, very large, and very clear, even in daylight, like drive-in theater screens, you know. And then he said, well, you know, let me think about it. So he called me back after kind of checking Fast Fridays out, because he really wasn't that familiar with our operation. And he called me back and said, yeah, let's do that. And he put me in touch with a guy that was going to do his videoing anyways. And as it ended out, the guy really had worked for us out here at Fast Fridays before. And they showed up, they broadcasted this event live up into the parking lot, which is just above Fast Fridays. So all the people that came were able to hear the announcer, Mike Rooney. We've got one of the best in the business really here. And he announced the event, and then it was broadcasted live up to the video screens. And then the people could hear the event going on, the motorcycles running and the races going off. And so we actually ended up selling about 100 cars, and they could have up to 6 people in a car. And it went off really well, but it was really strange because there was no atmosphere in the arena. And I've never had a race where there was absolutely nobody there. Poor Mike, he's sitting down here all like he's by himself, talking to himself. He struggled. Mike, I tell you what, is a very good announcer, and he generally doesn't struggle, but he did a great job, the best he could, and he was as creative as possible, but we just didn't have the atmosphere that we really needed. And the event, you know, it was maybe a break-even event. Maybe we lost a couple of $1,000. So we had an opportunity to do it again, but that particular promoter didn't want to do it on Friday night. He wanted us to do it on Sunday during the day, and it just doesn't, that doesn't work as well. It's not as great of an event. So we have been, since COVID in 2020, we did do 5 practices, which we're allowed to put on events just without spectators. And in between there, we also, I think it was August 28th, 29th, something like that, we did a youth national here. So we were really looking for a way to put on the youth national, because we felt bad for the kids, because they're like all the high school kids in sports and everything. They were without, and you really don't want to do that to kids, because you know you want them being active in Speedway so they continue to grow. Without growing in Speedway, I think they become a little bit stagnant and maybe lose interest and go on and do other stuff. And yeah, we crowned Wilbur Hancock in the 250 division as national Speedway champion, and then Nick Holbein was the 150 champion, and both those kids did a great job. And again, that particular event was live streamed, and at one time we had pretty close to about 10,000 people watching that event, because it was all free. Fortunately, we had a sponsor that came in and paid for the live stream, which was, I think, pretty close to about $3,000 to produce the show and put it on live stream. And they did an excellent job, and it was very popular. It went all over the world. But again, it's a lot of effort for not much in return. And we still have to run our business here and act like business people. And this was just a couple of things that we're doing, and the practices and everything were just ways to keep the wheels turning rather than just being stuck in the mud and the wheels spinning, you know.
Exactly.
And, definitely, we enjoyed throwing a lot of mud around for sure.
Well, we're going to watch a little video of this particular event that we're just talking about. And we're watching, actually, we're going to watch all the way to the end race where Gennaro was racing. And Gennaro, of course, he does good all the time. And Russell Green knocked off the future legendary Luke Becker. So Green got second and Becker got third. So Russell Green is, what do you think about Russell? He's pretty good, right?
Let's see. At the Pairs Championship at Paris, after the race, I went up to Russell and told him that I thought it was the best I've ever watched him race. And, you know, I was there the night that some people got together and bought Russell a bike because him and his mom couldn't really afford it. And they kind of kept Russell going. And I've been watching him ever since he was a little boy at that moment. And I have to say, at Paris on that particular night, Russell was racing the best I've ever seen him race. And Russell is a good kid, and I really like him. And of course, hope that he sticks around here at Fast Fridays and continues to grow.
Oh yeah, he's a real gem, and he's just, you know, he's like 28 years old, so he's not a teenager no more, and he's getting better all the time.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, he's really great. Let's go ahead and watch that video from Fast Fridays with nobody in the stands.
Oh no!
Oh.
So this was the drive-in event.
Welcome back to part 3 and the finals of the XSA's race report at Fast Friday Speedway in Auburn, California. After many more heats, both handicap and scratch events, it was finally time for the finals of the evening. The normally raucous arena was abnormally silent as the riders lined up for the handicap main. A 6-lap race. Gennaro was on the 60-yard line, Luke Becker on the 40, Tyler Warren on the 20-yard line, and 2 new 500cc racers, Timmy Dion and Kyle Cunningham, were on the line. Start, it was Cunningham, Dion, and Warren. 1, 2, 3. The heat was between Becker and Gennaro. Once past the young Dion, the battle for third was something to see. And even after Gennaro lost his steel shoe, he kept close after Becker until the final lap when Luke rocketed off the back straight. Young Kyle Cunningham got the win. Tyler Warren took second, and Luke Becker was third. And then there was the 250 main. On the line were Alex Martin, Wilbur Hancock, Landon Collins, and Catherine Moore. At the start, Hancock took the lead, but the 2020 Gumball Rally champion, Alex Martin, was determined to take it away from him. Alex Martin, on his first time out on his home track in Auburn for 2020, took first place. And while the stands were silent, the pits in the parking lot were going wild. The final scratch main was finally up. Bart Bast on the wall, Billy Gennaro in lane 3, Luke Becker in lane 2, and Russell Green on the pole. At the start, Bart Bast anticipated the start and blew the tape. After a consultation with the officials, Bast was eliminated. Former national champion and referee Steve Lucero has one of the toughest jobs in the world.
It's a tough job.
Very tough. I hate kicking him out.
Second start with Gennaro, Becker, and Green. At the start, Billy Gennaro took the lead, followed by Russell Green and Luke Becker. Both Gennaro and Green are back on their home track, and Luke has returned back after 3 years of riding in Europe. With Billy in the lead, Green and Becker battled it out for second. Ten-time champion Billy Gennaro took the checkered flag and the victory on his return to Fast Fridays in Auburn.
Whoa! Wow.
That was a bit slick that night for sure. Especially you could tell in that handicap race, there wasn't much track out there for them to really do their magic.
Yeah, and there's nobody in the stands.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, like I said, the atmosphere at Fast Fridays is generally of a very high effect, and on that particular night, it was all up in the parking lot.
Wow.
It's kind of funny. It was a very unique event, and we were proud to be involved in it. Really.
Well, the racing looked pretty dang good to me on that video. I mean, these guys were flying out there.
Yeah, that was our opening night and really only night of racing in 2020. It was quite a shame, really. But at least we got to get them out there and earn some points and stretch their wings a little bit after having them clipped.
They got clipped last year after that race.
Yeah.
So I was going to move on regarding the 25 lap race you guys have out there. Now, Costa Mesa used to have that race in like the 80s or the 90s or something like that. And then Brad went ahead and he canceled that 25 lap event. And then you picked it up, which I've several years ago, which was really cool. I really admire you for like picking up that event because, you know, Costa Mesa, they should have kept that. I don't know why they dropped that. And then you being the smart guy, you picked that up, and that was really great. So tell us how all that happened, because I don't know.
Well, it's pretty interesting. We really didn't do a 25 lap event because Costa Mesa stopped doing it. Auburn became many years ago the endurance capital of the world. And we've got that name because we've got a foot race that goes from Squaw Valley over the Sierras and finishes here in Auburn. That's called the Western States Run. And then we've got another, it's a horse race. It's called the Tevis Cup. And the Tevis Cup goes from Squaw Valley again over the Sierras, finishes right here in our arena at the fairgrounds. And somewhere along the line, we started catching the wind of the endurance capital of the world. And we said, well, you know, we need to do an event, an endurance event. And of course, the 25 lapper came up, and we've been doing it for so many years. And, you know, the riders don't like it. It's probably why Brad stopped doing it, because, you know, of course, it's wear and tear on their bikes. And for a long time, some of them had actually put bigger fuel tanks on, but you know, we've always done it, and it's created a really more of a rolling thunder type show, because if I'm not mistaken, 6 and 6, yeah, we run 12 riders in the main. To get into it, it's really easy. You just everybody transfers kind of thing, but and then we double the yardage. And so, yeah, it ends up being very interesting. The people that you think would win it struggle. They really do. The ones that are just in really good shape don't have an issue or problem with it. And I always say the old guys got to stop and have a few cigarettes or something. That's just a joke. Nobody smokes cigarettes really anymore. But yeah, it's quite an event. We used to have one that was called the backwards main event too, where we ran a main event, a handicap main event, where we had the guys go the opposite direction on the speedway. And Mike Rooney and I had lunch one time, and we were trying to figure out something to do to go along with sidecars who go in the opposite direction. And that's when we came, I think it was Mike really came up with it, and yeah, let's do it. And we staged that for a while, but I can remember the first time Jimmy Sizemore did really, really well. Jimmy was a really great, versatile rider. And another guy that was riding at the time was Harlan Bass Sr. Both of them could turn right really well. I can remember Sizemore leading it, and there was Bass right on his tail, but then Sizemore, by leaning over on the right side, rubbed his pipe and rubbed a big old hole in it, and it stopped. It was like had a big exhaust leak, and then Harlan took over, and for many years he was the favorite. But guys that actually modify their bikes and stuff like that. So that was kind of another unique event that was spawned by what is happening in our community, really. So, you know, that's how the 25 lapper got reinstated here in Auburn. Because
so
of the
when they modified the bike, Dave, they took the foot peg off, right? The back foot peg. They took that off, and so they could like not crash when they went right. they took the foot peg off.
That was one of the first obvious things that they had to change, and then they were changing the exhaust pipe, and the guys actually got serious about it because, you know, Harlan came in here and beat all these young guys, and they're all, his kids are like, that can't happen. But he was really good spinning right. And, you know, the guys actually had skid shoes made for their right foot. And John Grant was a guy that come out here, and he did pretty well in that too. He was a kind of an old fart like Harlan, and wasn't one of the young guns, that's for sure. But he could turn right. He was a great motorcyclist. And if you ever rode with these guys, they could beat you left, right with jumps. It didn't matter.
Yeah. Oh, that is so cool. And then you have Harlan Bass, and I think he's number 82. He's out there like beating all these guys like Gennaro and stuff.
Yeah. I think when we first started that, Gennaro was still a youngster, really.
Oh, okay.
And one thing I wanted to make note, going back to kind of the beginning and youth riders especially, I think just about every rider that is competing in Speedway now has competed as a youth rider, and that includes Gennaro, Bart Bass, the Heddens. They were all youth riders and grew up around Speedway. I can't think of anybody now. Sam Ermolenko is one of them. And he became world champion, but he never rode youth Speedway. But do you know who got Sam Ermolenko into Speedway? Eddie Castor. Yeah, Eddie Castor.
Really?
Yeah, you'd have to read that in Sam's book that he wrote. But yeah, that's how important our youth division is. And this year we had, or excuse me, last year, 2020, we were set to have 5 youth riders coming out of the 250s into the adult division. And it never, you know, we got Cunningham and some of these kids now, they've become successful, but to have 5 of them on a weekly basis, it never really transpired the way that we were kind of envisioning it. Would have been a great season. I really was looking forward to it.
Yeah, last year I think it was primed to be really just an awesome season, and then, you know, it didn't happen. Oh, that's bad. So, you know, you asked me before the show, we were chatting, and then I said, yeah, I do. Like, I have like 1,200 blogs. And you said, what's a blog? So we're going to go ahead and show you what one of my blogs is all about. Actually, I was so impressed at your 25-lap race. I said, I got to make a blog. I don't know if you saw it or not, but we're going to play most of it. But I'm going to show you what I do. And I love the 25-lap race. And we're going to show it right now. Welcome back. And today we're going to talk about the 25-lap Ironman endurance race. It's held every year at the Fast Fridays. They used to hold that one a long time ago, so we're going to talk about that. And if you like the content, please subscribe down at the bottom of the page. So let's go ahead and talk about that right now. But first, before we talk about it, we need to go back in the history. We need to go back. The 25-lap endurance race was actually invented back in the 80s and 90s at the Costa Mesa Speedway, probably by Brad Oxley, but I don't know. You can't find this information anywhere, so I'm working really hard at this blog. And they had it. It was fantastic. I loved it. Everyone loved it. And they raced that for about 20 years or so, and then they stopped doing it. And Dave Joyner at Fast Fridays, he picked it up. Good job, Dave. Good job. The 25-lap Ironman endurance race is an amazing race, and I'm so happy that Dave went ahead and continued that. Every year he does the 25-lap Ironman endurance race. They've held that event for many years at the Fast Fridays, and we're going to go back to 2013, where Billy Gennaro won that race. He raced the 25 laps, and who else would win but Billy Gennaro? He said it was a difficult race, and he just went ahead and just rode normally. He just kept on the gas and rode. Got a bug on me. Billy started from the 120-yard line. The 120-yard line. That's pretty cool. And he went ahead and finished that race. And the scorekeeper, he said he didn't even know like how many laps there was because there was so much smoke and chaos. Everyone was passing everyone. That sounds kind of fun. After the race, Billy just said that he just went ahead and was dripping with sweat and said, that wasn't a very hard race. Of course it wasn't a very hard race because you're Billy Gennaro. On July 25th, 2014, Ryan Bass won the next Ironman competition. He led at lap 2 and just kept riding and riding. He just said that he's going to stick to the pole and then nobody passed him. And Ryan Bass went ahead and won 2014 Ironman competition. Great job, Ryan. In 2015, it was the year of Brock Nichols. You know that guy, Brock Nichols. He's the 2020 national champion in Speedway. And Brock was like 16 years old. That's not fair. And Brock just said in a humble way, Brock's a very humble guy, he said just maintained his speed and just kept going and going, and then he just won that race. And riders were like falling like flies, running out of gas, and they were crashing, and it was just chaos. But Brock just kept on course and won the 2015 Ironman competition. The following 2 years, it was Gage Geist year. He won back-to-back Ironman competitions. Gage is sponsored by Connor Penhall Concrete Sawing Company. He just went ahead and did a fabulous job. He won back-to-back Ironman. He was an Ironman. Gage was in the gym working out. He just worked out really hard. A young guy. He was 17 and 18 when he won those events. Gage is an amazing athlete. Gage had 2 fuel tanks. 2 fuel tanks! That's not fair. And it helped Gage a lot. He just said, I was gunning it all the way. Like, who cares about the fuel? We're going to win that 25-lap Ironman competition. It was on June 29, 2018. It was the year of Russell the Rocket Green. Russell was starting from the 80-yard line, and he just continued on. Russell had a string of second and third place finishes, but this time Russell pulled it all together and won the Ironman competition. Russell's just an amazing rider. He had heat from like Bass, Hedden, Gennaro. Gennaro was closing in on Russell Green, and Gennaro crashed. Gennaro crashed with 2 laps remaining. He was catching up to Russell, but he crashed. And Russell went ahead with top honors and won the 25-lap Ironman competition. In the year 2019 was the last year they held that event. And Louis Marceroli won that race from the 80-yard line. Louis just continued on. Louis a great rider, and he just went ahead and won that. Other riders like Charlie Venegas, they had 2 gas tanks. They had them over their shoulder. And there were other riders at the Ironman competition that we did not catch, so we apologize and we'll catch you next time. But that's just an amazing event, started many years ago and continued by Dave Joyner of the Fast Fridays. Dave, thank you so much. That's a very special event, and we're honored that you have that event. It's really great, and it needs to keep going. Maybe Costa Mesa can do that one too. It's a lot of fun, a lot of work, crazy race. Hard on the bikes, hard on the body, hard on the scorekeeper. It's just amazing. So we appreciate you watching today. There's other videos here we'd like you to go ahead and check out of Speedway and join the channel, the Speedway channel.
Enough of that. Enough of that. Oh.
I do remember seeing that somewhere before.
Did you see the video? Did you see that?
Yeah. Very good.
Very good. Yeah, thank you. I was having fun.
Thank you, Mr. B.
We appreciate you too. Thank you, Dave, because you're just a great guy, and you did a really fantastic job. I love that event. I know it's hard on the bikes though, and it's people probably don't like that, the riders, but we the fans, we love that one.
It's become one of our more popular events, that's for sure. And over the years, we've had some amazing riders win it. Some really guys you wouldn't think would win it. And then the guys like Gennaro, who really have tried a long time, and he has won it, of course, but it's a hard one to pull off, and you got to have a little bit of luck too, for sure.
You do. Oh.
Generally, we've run it in August, and it's around the time of the horse race. They usually finish here. We try to do it the night before, and it's usually really warm. So that's one of the reasons Gennaro was sweating so much, I think.
Yeah, and I read where Billy said, "Oh, it's nothing. I'm Billy Gennaro," and I'm like, Billy, that's a hard race. I think he's not telling the truth.
Nothing would surprise me with Gennaro.
I laughed because when he said that, I was reading the write up on that particular event, and Billy was sweating and dripping with sweat, and he was just all like gross looking, and he's like, that was nothing.
Chad Felicio won it one year. He was a flat tracker, so he was used to doing a lot of laps, and definitely he had some good strategy, just kept plugging away, and ended up taking the lead with like a lap or two to go, and that was an exciting finish that time.
That is really neat. Yeah, it's definitely one of the most fun events that you have for the spectators. I guess I was talking to Russell, and he was telling me that the smoke was flying really heavy in the air, and that the scorekeepers couldn't see anybody, and people were passing everybody, and they kind of were like maybe losing count, or it was difficult to keep count of all the riders because of the smoke and chaos. Everything was wild. Is that right?
Yeah, like I said, in August, a lot of times in Auburn here, in August, we get these really still nights. So, yeah, I can get a little, like, foggy in a way. And probably after 25 laps, the track was dusty. And so, yeah, I don't know that I can really say that our officials didn't ever were getting it wrong, because they've always counted the right number of laps, and I think we've never really had an issue with miscalculating the winner.
Good. Yeah, it's easy to do, so you guys are really good not to miscalculate that.
Yeah.
Oh, that was great. So you have an event. You have an event coming up. I guess it's this Saturday. It's like a couple days away, and we just found out a new revelation. Tell us about what's happening, Dave.
Well, like I said, in 2020, we had done 5 practices, and we are committed now. I think the days are getting a little bit longer, and maybe it's not going to rain as much. So we went ahead and scheduled our first practice for 2021, and it is this Saturday night, and it's just a repeat of what we kind of did last year. We really can't have spectators, but I can sell anybody I want a pit pass, and they automatically have to sign a waiver and become a participant in that way. Steve Evans taught me that, and so we're hoping to have a few extra people out here and give the riders a chance to start getting ready for our upcoming season, and we hope to have one for 2021.
Oh, that's great. So what's the situation like for 2021? Is there any word, or are you just waiting to hear what's going on from the great governor of California?
If we had to wait for them, we'd probably be waiting for many years. But we answer here at the fairgrounds to the Placer County Health Department. We're really fortunate, like I said, that we are in a small, close-knit community, We run our operation here at the Gold Country Fairgrounds and Event Center, and it is a state-owned facility that is governed, in this case, by the Health Department of Placer County. Now, like I said a little bit earlier, Placer County does allow us to run events and has been since this whole thing started. We were shut down for a short period of time, but they allowed us to run events, but without spectators. So that's what we're running under the practices. But I think everybody knows in the state of California and practically anywhere in the world maybe that this COVID thing is seems to be kind of, the numbers seem to be going down. Hospitalizations, ICUs, just the overall testing of people, not as many people are getting it. So all those stats are getting better. And then, of course, we have the people that I think I saw today, 6 or 7 million people in America have received the vaccine. And it's like 94% effective and way up in the high 70s on these new variant parts of the COVID issue. And so we are hoping, and I think it's going to happen this week, Placer County will be moving down a tier in the governor's plan. And so things are starting to improve, and we're hoping that we'll be able to look into the spring. We've actually are tentatively scheduling to start our season on May 28th. And a lot of people have told me that that's probably not going to happen, but I think it's going to, and I definitely want to try to make it happen. And if we have to go with a limited spectatorship, we will and can. We're prepared to do that. And we will probably have our opening night on May 28th in whatever form it is, with or without spectators. We're going to do it, and then try to have confidence in the decision makers that things are going to get back to normal here sooner than later.
Yeah, you have a lot of really great guys that want to race. So
yes, yeah. When I was down at Bakersfield, of course, everybody's asking, well, what are we going to do? Yeah, so we're formulating our season. It is in the hands of whoever that reason this is happening. So if it's our governor or whatever, I just wish him luck. And by the way, if you're listening, Gavin, I know you. Gavin Newsom grew up in my community up in Alta, California, and his dad lived in Dutch Flat, the next door community. So he spent his summers up there in Dutch Flat, and I met him before. He's a good guy, but man, I don't know about his governorship.
a lot of people.
Good thing he opened barber shops. I've noticed he's got a new haircut lately.
Yeah, something good, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's all looking up. And
that's good. Well, we all hope that, the track opens up soon. You're going to start your first race in May, and hopefully we can have a partially full schedule or a full schedule. That would be really fantastic, and bring the people back and forget the videotape thing.
Yeah. I definitely look forward to a little bit of normalcy. Not only for me, but my family. My daughter is a high school student here in Placer, at Placer High School here in Auburn. She's a freshman, and she's since, let me think about this. I guess 8th grade it all started for her, and they canceled school, and it just hasn't been good for our children and their education.
Yeah,
and their social well-being, really.
Well, we hope that resumes and things straighten up. You maybe learn a few tips from Steve Evans too.
Yeah, I was thinking about that today. He's got a few tricks in his bag for sure, and there's no reason that we can't follow a little bit of his development of what he's doing, for sure.
Yeah, that's great. And we really appreciate him for at least having 2 tracks open. It's not everything, but it's better than nothing.
Yeah.
It's
That's
good.
terrific.
No,
Yep.
that's good. So who are some of your top riders there at Fast Fridays now?
Okay, well, I didn't know there was going to be a test, but of course, 10-time national champion Billy Gennaro has got to be our #1 rider. One of our most popular riders, and has been here for a long time and lives in the Auburn community, actually lives just outside of Auburn, but Bart Bass. And him and his family have been in business here for umpteen years, forever. Bass Brothers Welding out on Highway 49. And Bart raced youth speedway here, and then grew up racing speedway here, and continues it as he's getting older and older. So Bart's one of our popular guys for sure. And then of course the Heddens, we got all these new young guys. Cunningham's looking real sharp. The Dions are giving everybody heck. And of course, Russell is doing a fantastic job up here. You know, he moved to Northern California a few years ago and started racing here every Friday night. And I think it's really propelled Russell's career rather than, you know, these guys are running fast up here, and it's not an easy thing to break into and win races. And Russell stuck with it and he's doing a great job. And so sorry if I'm missing somebody, but we've got a lot of great riders. Matt is racing here on occasions. Matt Becker. Yeah, we've especially looking after these young guys and trying to get them all up to being good Division I riders.
You're doing a great job. You have all those young riders coming up into Division I, and you have the SOS team there supporting a whole stack of riders, and you just have a lot of really great support there with the sponsors and the riders and everybody.
Well, Brian, I tell you what, this is my full-time job, operating and running Fast Fridays promotions. We do other events. We've been doing about 18 years down at Daytona. Mostly been flat track events during Bike Week. And so we've got a real varying schedule as far as speedway and flat track, and we've developed a lot of techniques and abilities to promote our events and get big crowds, and that allows us a comfort zone in a way. When you have big crowds and you've got a little bit of income coming in rather than just spending it, and it allows you to help like youth divisions out and have peewees in double-digit numbers, and we really developed a lot of rules. We're consistently with the AMA on rules and rule making, and for years we've been leading speedway development and rider development here at Fast Fridays.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, we're proud of it. I'm a very lucky man. I've been able to achieve a lot and been marginally successful at doing this where others have not done so well.
Well, I think partly it's the community that you live in too. You have this really kind of tight-knit community. Everybody likes Speedway. They're like a bunch of homegrown, people, and they're really good people, and they're good Speedway fans, good Speedway riders. You have, like I say, you have a lot of people up there that are into Speedway. So you have and you have all those Pee-wee riders coming up. So there's a big nucleus of people that are really good up there in Northern Cal, which really helps a lot.
Yeah, we've got Billy Hamels running his race shop 4 miles at the most from the Speedway track. He's supporting Speedway. We've got Harley Davidson's been involved out here. Dodge has been involved. They all bring out their corporate and national figureheads and have them watch Speedway. And we, from the very beginning, some of the events that we put on were things like the American Final. I can remember our first national championship was a one round, and then it became a series. And we haven't been afraid to continue on with new events like the backwards main event, and new many years ago, the 25 lapper. And of course, we've got our classic event that's run for, I think it's 32 years, the North versus South. It's one of the, well, it has to be the biggest team race in all of America for sure. And there's really a huge rivalry. The first year that we ran the North versus South, and yeah, there's the teams for sure. That was last year, 2019, and the South team put together one heck of a team and ended up beating the North team really pretty well. But one of the other development team races that we put on is the USA versus the World, and I think we're about 15 or 16 years into that. And we've had everybody, world champions racing in that event: Jason Crump, Martin Slominski, Armando Castagna, some really, really famous people racing in that event. And it's become one of our crowd's favorites. And also, I have to say, probably the riders just love it. Our riders enjoy it a lot because they get to ride against guys that they don't normally see. And you know, there's some of the best races on the track that I can remember is between Martin Smolinski, who's two-time long track world champion and used to be teammate with Billy Gennaro, and they come out here on this track and put on a show. And you can't, two guys can't ride one bike, but it looks like they do. And yeah, it's been that is my favorite event for sure, and it's kind of one of my it's something that, you know, other people didn't do. First USA versus the World I ever went to was at Baylands, and Ivan Major had a team of riders, and we ran on their little short track and then went up to a 5/8 mile at Baylands down in the Bay Area. That was the first USA versus the World that I really had seen and participated in. I worked as a starter there, I think, and then when I became the promoter here, I made some trips over to Europe, and I can remember thinking, yeah, I want to get these riders over here, and I was sitting in the stands at a race in the Czech Republic. I don't remember which track it was, but I told the people I was with, whoever wins this event, I'm going to invite him to USA versus the World. And the guy that won it, he won it really pretty easy. He was a Hungarian guy. And I'm sorry, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but really great guy. And he came over here and he did a really great job. And first time coming to America. A lot of these guys, it's the first time they've come here. And they really have a lot of fun because the night before we generally have a practice, big barbecue. We just open the taps on our beer truck and the riders kind of go underneath of it and suck it all in the best they can. Then the next day they race and they have to become a little bit serious. But then the day after that, we have like a little TT track out here, and we get everybody on pit bikes and all kinds of motorcycles. And that's when the fun really starts. And a lot of guys have gone home from that with more injuries than the real race. Because, of course, they go out there in short pants and everything else. And that's a picture of the TT course in the middle there. That's cool. Thanks for showing that. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And, you know, we really have had a good time doing that. And the riders go home and they're all just sunburned and worn out when they get home. And everybody, I've had girlfriends and wives call me and say, he showed up, he came home, and he had a big smile on his face, and it lasted for about a week. But most of the time, he was asleep, recovering. So yeah, it's something we perfected, and really, it's my favorite for sure.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. They had the USA versus the world like in the early 70s in Costa Mesa. I was a pit guy. I think the last one it was 70, I don't know, 76 or 78. I can't remember. I think it was 78. And I was the pit guy for Peter Collins, I think it was. And I was in a newspaper. They cut half of my head off and they could see me with my striped shirt, and then they stopped having it at that time, and then you guys picked it up north, which is really great. That's neat.
It's we've kind of found a niche with some of these things, and yeah, it's worked out for us. And like I said, due to my travels and getting to know all these riders, I've been able to make it a little bit more of a project. I think we have a great reputation throughout Europe of putting this event on and actually paying the riders and because they come over here in good faith, and they have to buy their own plane ticket and everything. Because I found out a long time ago, if you buy them a plane ticket, there's no guarantee they're going to show up. But if you make them pay for it, they're going to show up to get the reimbursement.
Very smart.
Yeah, that's the way we do it, and I've really enjoy it. I'm lucky because my family gets to share the culture that these guys have, and all of these people that are fans and mechanics of World Championship Speedway. They get a little bit of a glimpse of that. And I tell you what, these riders have been really, really good. We've had a couple crazy ones and not so good, but that's Brian Yarrow right there.
He's a pretty good rider. He's not bad, right?
Yeah, Brian's a great rider. He comes from a great motorcycle racing family, the Yarrows. His dad, Dwayne, had a couple of brothers that were all Northern California number ones, and Dwayne Yarrow, of course, when he was racing Speedway, he had the popular purple leathers, and I think he was sponsored by a beauty parlor or something, and he always had a faithful following for sure. Made a lot of noise when they did introduce him.
He was a good rider. I raced Dwayne in the '78 World Championship qualifier at Santa Ana, and there was Dwayne Yarrow. He was good. He's a good rider.
Yeah. He was always one of my favorites for sure. And Brian is too.
Yeah, Brian's a good rider. That guy really can ride. He's a talented rider. Is he still riding nowadays, Brian? Because I don't know.
Yeah, Brian's got a pretty steady job with the state of California, and so last 2019 was a kind of on and off for him. And of course, he's got 2 kids now and a wife and a full-time job, and so yeah, sometimes it didn't make it. But I know he has a real passion for racing Speedway, and always has performed real well out here. Top-notch operation he has.
Yeah, he's really good. And who's this? Becker?
Yeah, that's Luke Becker. Looks like to me, I'd guess that it was probably first year or two racing, coming out of the youth divisions. I notice he has 212 on, and which that's a 3-digit number. And of course, you have to earn, I think it's $500 or $600 in a year's time to go to a 2-digit number, and so that was probably his first year, because he either that or he's maybe a youth rider right there. I'm not sure. I can't tell.
Yeah, well, he made the money pretty fast, I think, so that wouldn't be hard to go to a 2-digit number for Luke Becker.
Yeah, and Luke started racing Kiwis. That's how he got started in Speedway. Although, of course, his dad raced Speedway, and his dad was, if I'm not mistaken, I don't remember the year, but a youth national champion. like I said, the secret and the bottom line for American Speedway, you talk about whatever you want. It all has to do. 99.9% of our riders right now in Speedway, all the way from the national champion down, are generally youth Speedway riders, come from the youth division.
That's great. Well,
Very
that's really good. I have a Speedway rider here. He's one of my favorite riders that rides up north. I don't know the rider, but I sure like this guy a lot.
I think that's Sammy. Yeah, that's, oh my gosh. My mind's all over the world.
That's okay. I threw you for a curve there, Dave. Don't worry about it. But he was a bumblebee rider. Who was it?
Sammy Waddell.
Oh,
Sure
very good. Does he still ride, Sammy?
No, he's from the Bay Area. Got a really great dad, really very talented young rider. But I saw him, maybe it was at the drive-in event or the Youth National, and he's all grown up now, and didn't really get to finish off. He was riding the 150 division, but he told me he was going to come back and race Speedway in this upcoming year. Of course, COVID hit. Not sure where he's at, but I would love to see that young man come back and race Speedway. Really animated young man. Didn't have any trouble talking to adults or on the microphone, or good kid. And I don't remember how old he was last time he raced, but the chicks dug that kid. It's true.
They liked his bumblebee uniform, I think. They liked that.
Maybe that.
Yeah. Oh, good. Very good. Yeah. And so how was your Valentine's Day this year? Did you have a good Valentine's?
Yeah, I did. What did we do on Valentine's Day? Don't kind of remember at this point. But yeah, we had a nice Valentine's Day. What'd you do?
I just, I think I had a date, and I had a nice lunch, and I had like a very romantic day. It was nice.
Wasn't the Daytona 500 on Valentine's Day?
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah.
So I got a picture of you, Dave, and I don't know. I asked somebody, they said it was Valentine's Day, but I don't know exactly what day. What is this, your Valentine's? Was your date with your honey on Valentine's?
Yeah, thanks, Brian.
I heard that was your Valentine's Day.
That was my spin class on Valentine's Day, and we had a costume contest. And there was a Starbucks gift card on the line, so yeah, that's my instructor, Bonnie, right there. And yeah, I won the contest.
Did you win the best costume contest in that day?
I did, yeah. I had to wear yeah. There's the second place one. Her name's Cindy. We call her Detroit. That's where she's from. And yeah, we have a really lively, fun spin class. And thank you, Brian, for bringing that to my attention. I tried to forget all about that.
Okay, we'll forget. Okay, everybody, we're going to forget about it, and we're going to put this picture of Dave up here. Now, that's what we want to see. Here's Dave.
Yeah, that's out at the Speedway.
Yeah, we're going to just show no more of that stuff. We're going to show Dave as a Speedway promoter.
Yeah, I'm a lucky man. I have a great family. I really have a very unique business to be able to get behind, and it's supported me well over the years. And I spent 10 years on the track racing commission with the FIM. That was very rewarding, but I finally had to quit. 1 year I went to Europe 5 times, and the traveling just ran me into the ground a little bit. And I literally one time went to Maui for a vacation, and then found out I had a track racing commission meeting. Yeah, there's one in Maui, and then had to get on an airplane on Thursday. Went to Paris, France one time, and another time to Scotland, to Edinburgh, Scotland for these commission meetings, and then turned around on that Monday and came back to Maui. So I was gone like 3 or 4 days, clear to Europe from Maui. That was a 28, 35-hour trip.
I saw some of your pictures on Facebook from Maui, and I guess this is your daughter. You guys had a good time, right, in Maui?
Yeah, that's my daughter Jordan. She's 15 now, and yeah, we've had a good run going to Maui. Myself and my family. This would have been our 11th year, I think, to go there, and of course we couldn't go because of the COVID. And in the backdrop there, that's the Maka Kai at Napili Bay.
Cool.
And
I like Hawaii too. That's a cool place to go. You're in Maui, right? This past time, it was like Maui.
Yeah. I always go to Maui. I like Maui.
Where do you stay? Do you stay at on those near Lahaina? That place right near Lahaina? Is that where you stay?
We stay in Napili Bay, which is about 10 miles north of Lahaina.
Oh, okay.
It goes Lahaina, Kahanapali, then Napili.
Oh. I've never stayed there. That's nice, huh?
Really, really nice. It's all low-rise condominiums. There's not like high rises in your way. That particular picture in the backdrop is looking over the Sea House restaurant, which is right on the Napili shores, and some of the best sunsets in the world.
Beautiful.
Right there, for sure. Beautiful place. I really love going there. My daughter has gone there since she was very little, and I really think she's one of the kings or queens of Maui, and rightfully so. She's a good kid.
She looks like a great kid. She really does. Yeah, I've had a few trips in Maui before, and it was pretty cool. I have a blog on my YouTube channel about when I was solo after I had got divorced from my wife, and I went to Maui on vacation, and I ended up going in the Haleakala crater, and I ended up like getting stuck in there for a week with no water, and it was a survival thing. And then I ended up getting out of the thing. It's a blog I have. It's really crazy. And then I went to Kaanapali to see all the people because there was nobody in the volcano crater for a week.
I don't know how you worked all that out, Brian, but it sounds like an adventure.
It was crazy. I went in there and there's nobody in there, and it's cold. I mean, it's like 30 degrees in there at night. So, I mean, it's really cold. And I was alone, and I was like, what am I doing in here? I was stuck with no water. I brought a bunch of like Mountain Dews, and that's not what you use when you go survival. Like, you need water, not Mountain Dew.
Yeah, Haleakala is over 10,000 feet in elevation. So, yeah, it's not the warm shores of Maui anymore, that's for sure. And oftentimes it just did get some snow there.
Yeah, it's cold in there. I started about 3:15 p.m. and I went to the ranger station, and the ranger says, "Where are you going?" And I said, "I'm going to the bottom of the Haleakala crater." And he said, "Oh, it's 3:15. You'll never make it." And I had to literally run all the way down. It was like 5 or 10 miles to the bottom of the Haleakala crater. And I was running. It was getting dark and dark. And I'm like, run.
Folks, you never know what these Speedway guys are going to come up with.
Yeah, they're crazy. They're crazy. I mean, it's just crazy. And then I remember like coming out of the crater because people would walk. I walked all the way to where the visitor center is, and I went up that trail after several days, and then I was walking up and I was dying. I was horrible looking, like a monster, and I'm going up and I'm dying of thirst, and these people were coming down the hill hiking for the day and then going straight back up, like I touched the bottom and I'm dying, and I'm like, please, I need water. And they're like, get out of here. And I'm like dying. I'm like, please, water. And they're like, no.
Who's this guy?
I look like Charlie Manson or something like that. So they're like, oh. So I had to get up to the high, where it was raining up in the high, and I had this heavy backpack. It was really hard to walk. And so I go up into the clouds, and I would stick my tongue out for water, like, ah, and water would touch my mouth, and then I survived. It was fun.
Good for you, Brian. That's a good Maui experience.
Yeah, and then when I got done, I had to hitchhike to my car, which is about 5 miles down the road because I was too tired to walk, and nobody picked me up. And then finally, this airplane pilot and this stewardess lady, they picked me up and they took me to my car, which was parked really far down the road. And then I said, "Oh my gosh, I've been alone in this crater for like a week. I need people." So I drove that day to the Kanapali beach, and there was like 10,000 people, and I'm like, people. So it was fun. It was fun. So yeah, I like Maui. It's a fun place.
I do too. I'll always try to go back there my whole life.
Yeah, good choice. I really like. I wanted to move there actually. They were selling these houses in Maui, and I thought, oh, I'd like to buy it. It's like a couple 100,000, but they're brand new houses. And I thought, oh, I want to do that. But I never did. I did have a negative experience in Maui. So it was in the local area. So I decided maybe I wouldn't do that. But I like visiting there. And I like going to around the other side of the highway. What's the name of that place? Where they have all those falls and all the windy road. Remember the windy road going all the way? I forgot the name. Hana.
Road to
the
Hana.
road to Hana.
At the end is the 7 sacred pools.
Yeah, the 7 sacred pools. And that's where Charles Lindbergh is buried. I went to his gravesite, the famous American pilot, Charles Lindbergh, and he's actually buried right there. And I went to his little gravesite there. It's really cool.
Yeah, that's in a kind of remote area past Hana.
Yeah. So yeah, and then we drove all the way around there to the Haleakala crater. From there, kept continuing around the island. It's a cool place. I really like it though. It's nice. So let's see. What else did you want to talk about? Did we miss anything?
I don't know. We talked about our upcoming season. We're hoping to start on May 28th, and then we'll run consecutively after that, and everybody needs to keep their fingers crossed. I just have to say, please go get the vaccine. It's safe. I think it's as safe as the flu shot. It's as safe as a polio vaccination. It's as safe as what we've been through in our life. It isn't just a discovery that was made 2 months ago. It's something that has been in the works for 10 years. We're just lucky that the scientists took it to Pfizer and they helped develop it. So get the vaccine. I talked to a woman the other day, huge Fast Fridays fan. Her name's Kathleen. And she said she wasn't going to get the shot. But I've been talking to the Placer County health officials, and it could be possible that we might be able to admit people that would be able to show us like a little card that they get that they've been vaccinated and the date. And that could kind of make a green light, red light for people that have been vaccinated. Placer County is kind of saying that it could be that we might be able to admit people that have been vaccinated.
Nice.
So this person who's a huge fan, her and her husband, and this is what Fast Fridays is about. Here's this older woman, her and her husband, not really big motorcycle racing fans. Maybe they're just race fans, but they've made a discovery of Fast Fridays and become huge Fast Fridays fans. And just love to come out here, buy season passes, are very much involved in our customer base. And she's one of the ones I might be able to tell you know what, you need to get the vaccine because then I can let you come into Fast Fridays. And it'd be kind of strange if the world worked out that way, but I have a feeling it's going to be more important than just kind of giving it a pass.
Yeah.
So I hope people become serious about it.
That's an idea.
Yeah, so we've got our practices that we're having. We've got a lot of history here at Fast Fridays. I've done a lot of behind the scenes work for Speedway in America, and we're going to continue to do it and see if one of these days I can get this place up to its potential, and that I'm going to retire. I'm hoping to have something happen around here in the next 5 years, and maybe I can let go, let somebody else run this place for another 25 years.
Nice. Are you going to sell it? Are you going to sell Fast Fridays then? Maybe in a few more years once things get back to normal.
Well, right now there's nothing here to sell. I mean, I got equipment, a water truck, a tractor, all that kind of stuff. But really, the important thing here is the contract with the landlord. And right now, we don't have a contract because of COVID. And once we get it stabled, yeah, it's going to be time for Dave Joyner and his family to move on to new horizons, I guess. And you know, there's not many people that do things for 26 years anymore. As far as a job, you know, 2019 was a very rewarding year for me. Had a lot of changes within my family and everything, but it was still, we accomplished a lot. And in any business or anything that we all do in life, if we can't accomplish things, I think we just become a little bit stagnant. And, you know, there was a couple of years I was operating Fast Fridays, and it became that. But we rejuvenated ourselves and our attitude, and things are really going well. And we've really created something that me and my family is really proud of here, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's Fast Fridays is really a neat venue. I remember riding there, and it was just so, like, it was just, I don't know, it was like different, you know. It was like a home cooking track, you know, like it was down to earth, and it was just one of those kind of old fashioned, really cool tracks.
Well, I can tell you, being here for 25, 27 years, I've made some discoveries about this particular venue, the fairgrounds, and the community of Auburn. I'm really, one thing about Auburn, of course, this is where gold was first discovered in California. So the discovery of gold is what made and built California. And one of the things that happened here in the 1940s was the WPA, Work Project Act, built the stadium. And it's got little placards out here. And it's a very unique use of quartz rock. They built all the walls around here and the bathrooms and stuff. So I've kind of looked into that and have kind of an interest in the buildings here at the fairgrounds, what they were used for when they were originally put here, what the WPA was, and what this stadium actually means to the state of California. It was originally built for playing football in, and that was the Sierra College, it was called, or Placer College at the time, and then it became also a football field for Placer High School, and you can find old pictures around when it was a football stadium, and then of course they moved the stadium over there, and then they ran sprint cars here for many years. I was just at my local Moose Lodge talking to Richard Forsberg, which his son Andy is like a champion sprint car driver here in the area and friends of Fast Fridays. And Richard was telling me some of the history about sprint car racing here at the stadium. So it's got a really colorful history here, and I'm glad, and I'm really feel I'm lucky that I've been able to be a little bit of a steward. I've been through 6 fair managers here, I think 4 or 5 maintenance supervisors, and several turns of the fair board and stuff like that, and yet I've kind of survived and been the low guy here that's been here for so long. It's pretty interesting, and I want to keep the history going and the knowledge of course, Auburn and the fairgrounds going. So I'm actively looking into these kind of things.
Nice. I have a question for you, Dave.
Mm-hmm.
Years ago, we had a world qualifier, and there was 2-night venue. One was at the Sacramento Fairgrounds. I guess that was the venue before you. We raced at the fairgrounds at Sacramento. I guess that's where they have the 1 mile track or something like that. Maybe there, that area. I'm not sure, but we raced Speedway on a small track. It's in my blogs. And it was a nice little, like maybe a little bit bigger than Costa Mesa size track. It wasn't that big. And was that the track that was there before you, and then you guys took over at Auburn? Is that Fast Fridays? I mean, is that the track that was there, or was that just a one night kind of track?
No, they raced at Cal Expo. That is where the Sacramento Mile is raced on the horse race track, and they have a little arena there. Now, before that, they used to have a state fairgrounds that was more in South Sacramento, and they did have an arena there. What year was that you're talking about?
78, I think, 78.
Yeah, it would have been at Cal Expo, and that was it was a world an American final, I think it was called.
Yeah, we were in it. I was in it, and Schwartz was in it, Bass was in it, and a bunch of guys. I got injured. I was actually, after going into the 3rd round, I had a perfect score of 6 points. And then I beat, my first race against Bass and Mike, and I ended up getting lucky and beating him. And then Schwartz, the next race before Schwartz went to Europe. And then I was doing pretty good. I'm like, I'm going to win this thing. I'm 6 points going into the 3rd round. I'm gonna take these guys down. And then I ended up getting railroaded from behind, and I went to the hospital. I got totally taken out. Some guy just didn't like that young punk, doing well, and I just totally got derailed. I was in the hospital. Broke my arm. My whole weekend was ruined because of some guy.
I think that event might have been promoted by Al Lauer, which was a big promoter of speedway bike racing in the Sacramento area. And it's kind of a little bit of a unique event that happened there. And Mike Rooney was in it too, I believe. And also Dennis Robinson, the guy who became the promoter in Napa for many years. Both those guys were in it. And if you would indulge me and let me tell you a little bit of a story, I used to have this guy that'd show up here at every American final that we ever produced. This German guy just show up like the day before. His name was Harry Schuschemile. Harry was ran postal machines in Rostock, Germany, which is part of the Eastern Bloc of Germany. And he'd come here and he'd just show up, and I remember the first time I met Harry, he wanted to get a program. So I was like, well, they're not here yet. They come tomorrow. And said, okay, I'll be back. And he came and watched the races, and he ended up kind of becoming friends with me, and even show up and come stay at my house a little bit. And so Harry was a collector of programs, of world championship programs. And of course, the American final was part of like you said, the qualifying system for the riders to go on to the overseas final. And in those days, it wasn't a series, a Grand Prix series. It was a one-night final. So it had a certain progression of qualifying events. And if you read Ivan Major's book, it tells in there all about how he had to qualify and get into these world championship events and have opportunities of winning world championships. Well, Harry was a collector of programs, and every time he'd come here, he'd say, you know, I'm looking for this one American final event that was run in Sacramento on this date. And I'm like, I don't have any idea. I don't have any idea. And the last time he came here, he actually came into my office and says, you got to help me find this. This is the last time I'm coming here to get this program. This is sought after by so many people. And if I get that, it absolutely completes my world championship program collection from the beginning of world championship races all the way into the current time. So he had like photocopies of the program that he got from somewhere, and it listed all the riders, and he says, you got to help me find this. You know, can't you call some of these people that race there? How about this guy, Dennis Robinson? I go, well, I knew Dennis, you know, and from promoting in Napa for many years, and he rode when I first started officiating here, and so I phoned up Dennis. I'll never forget it. This guy Harry was sitting right next to me, kind of like beating on the desk, going, "Call him right now," you know, and. So I call up Dennis, and Dennis says, he goes, yeah, he says, I probably had that at one time, but I just threw a bunch of stuff away. And yeah, I don't have anything like that. And I also called Mike Rooney too, because he was in the event. And Dennis says, nah, I don't have it. And I said, okay. I hang up and look at Harry and said, sorry, you know, I tried everybody on there that I know. And 5-10 minutes later, the phone rings and it's Dennis. And he says, Dave, he says, you wouldn't believe this. I threw all that stuff away, but I set this one little stack that was sitting on my coffee table, and I just was going to go through it a little bit more and throw it away too. But he said, I just went through that stack just because I had a feeling, and sure enough, that program was in that stack that he was getting ready to throw away. This guy, Harry, I said, go down there. He lived in Napa. So he got in his car and drove right directly down there. And I don't remember what he gave him $500 or $600 for this 1 or 2 page program. You know, it just was this really very simple operation, but it completed Harry Schuschemile's World Championship program collection. And it was the outstanding, that event was the outstanding program of his whole collection. And so it was pretty interesting that Dennis somehow came up with that thing and that we actually found it. It was an amazing story, really. Do you remember who won that?
You know, I was in the hospital because I had got injured, and I was, and I thought I broke my arm because, like I say, I did real well. I won my first 2 races, and then I got my hand stuck in the back of a wheel. Somebody hit me, and I go flying over the handlebars, and then I was pretty much in the hospital, so I wasn't able to be at the race. And but I raced the next night. I was racing. And we had a race at Auburn the next night, I remember. It was at this little arena with, like, I don't know, it was like blue and it had flags around it. I remember that. It was really a tacky track. I couldn't ride it very well. I was injured anyways. But it was, I don't know, it was in Auburn somewhere. I don't know if you know that track. It was a little track. It was a tiny track, like Costa Mesa or smaller. But it was really tacky. And you couldn't slide. It was like a TT style racing.
I think it was Steve Gresham on that.
Oh, it was a hard track to ride. It was actually, you couldn't slide. The track was so tacky that there was no real sliding. It was like just a 2-wheeling riding, and then you 2-wheel out of it. And I don't like that kind of track very well. I like to slide. And then I was injured really bad, so I really shouldn't have even been riding. But I didn't do very well. I don't think I scored very many points at all because I didn't like the track, and then I wasn't feeling very well either. So I was lucky just to even race because I was seriously injured at the time. But I remember that track, but you don't know where that track is? It was a little track in Auburn, I remember, but I don't remember where.
I don't know of any local tracks that have been in Auburn except for this one. Now, at one time, it was configured a quarter-mile track here before we had the food concession building and the back straightaway grandstands. And they did run speedway races here and flat track races.
This was a small track. It was in a little arena, I remember. And like I say, I just remember like kind of like flags, and it was like blue inside. And it was a little track, maybe the size of Costa Mesa. So I don't know where that was, but they had a race there.
You got me on that one.
You might want to look into that and find out, because it was a 2-night event. We had one night at the Santa Ana Bowl and the quarter mile down in the south. And I was actually the #1 point getter on that track that year. And I was on the program cover. I have the program cover here somewhere. And if I can find it, I don't know. I have it here. And so, yeah, I was on the cover of that program. And then here it is right here. Here's the World Qualifier.
Oh, yeah.
And that's me in the white uniform behind there. And that was the first night of that particular event. And I ended up getting either 3rd or 4th place in that event. And I made the program cover. So that was pretty cool. I'm on the cover of a World Qualifier. I liked that one. And
Santa Ana was promoted by Kazoo.
Yeah, that was Louis Kazoo. Rest in peace, Louis. Yeah. They had another World Qualifier like a year later, I guess. I didn't race in that because I was doing something else. And then I read Bruce Penhall raced in that one. I guess it was 79. I from what I read, and Bruce Penhall didn't do very good. That's probably like the only time you'll ever read Bruce Penhall never really doing that well. And they asked Bruce Penhall, I was reading this, and I hope it's right. They asked Bruce Penhall, like, why didn't you do well in that race? And we're going to have Bruce Penhall on the show again for part 2, and I'm going to talk to him about this. But he said he didn't like the Santa Ana Bowl because the track was really narrow, and it was difficult to pass because it was a little football field. And I like that track. I mean, I did really well. Like, I was #1 at that track, so I had some success there. But Bruce Penhall didn't like that track. Well,
good.
Yeah. So, anyways, we had a good time, and but yeah, I remember my days going up there and racing there, and it was a lot of fun. I really liked that. It was called the Cal Expo track. That was a fun track.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
very popular.
There was only one problem in that track. There was just one big problem, and that was the night that Porky McCabe got paralyzed. He hit some Bondo in the track. I guess they had car races, like figure 8 car races the night before, and there was dropping Bondo in the track. And then he was riding, I guess, on the outside. I was working on my bike between races. You know, I was in the hunt for doing well, so I was really focused on my bike, fueling it and working on my gearing. And then, boom, I heard a big, loud crash. And Porky had hit some Bondo in that track, and he went right through the wall. And there was a railroad tie, one of those big, 12 by 12 railroad ties, and he would hit right in the middle of the railroad tie, and it put him paralyzed for life. And that was pretty much so. Porky and I were in the hospital that same night, so it was kind of like it was a bad night for Porky for sure, especially being paralyzed. And then he had passed away a few years later. I guess from a situation due to his injury, he had passed away like 3 or 4 years later. And I went to see him. He didn't like me because I was like a 17-year-old rider, and he always wanted to beat me, and I didn't want him to beat me. And I always beat Porky, and he hated me because he was like 28 and I was like 17. And so Porky, and then when I went to see Porky, after he got hurt, he didn't want to talk to me. He didn't like me very much. And then a couple of years later, a year later, he was put in the wheelchair and a bolt was sticking out of the wheelchair. And then when his nurse put his legs into it, it got stuck into the bolt, which he couldn't feel because he was paralyzed. And then he got gangrene because of that, because he didn't know it. When they found out, it was like several days later or whatever. And then actually he had gangrene, and he had passed away as a result of that accident through the gangrene and all that. So that was kind of like a bad situation that happened that night that I will never forget.
Brian, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
I see those Speedway statues or whatever you call them up there behind you. Are those from Poland?
Those are from Costa Mesa. I had a pretty good run in like around 2006, 2007, 2008. And those are the trophies from Costa Mesa. They gave those trophies out. And I rode Costa Mesa pretty good. So I had a pretty good run. A lot of those guys have their heads broke off because they fell down or something.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But that was Costa Mesa.
I've got something like that. I think it's something like that. This is actually hand painted from Poland.
That's nice.
So, but this has, I think it's right here. It's got my name on it.
Oh.
Of course, the flag.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. And it's Fast Fridays up here on the chest and the bib.
Nice.
I've got this was given to me by a guy that owns the little Speedway figurines that they've been giving away for years. Now I've always brought a ton of those into America and have really had a run of them with. I had dozens made of Brian Yarrow, Bart Bass, and so on, and we've sold them all over the years. But we've always enjoyed. This is a really unique little thing. If I can.
What is that?
This is a Speedway rider in a bottle. Now, if you go on speedwaybikes.com and you look at the rider profiles, I have a profile on there, and it's me standing there. And this is a guy that in the Czech Republic. It says Fast Fridays on the little sign. And then this is modeled after the picture on speedwaybikes.com. And yeah, this is like a ship in the bottle. And this guy built it for me and sent it over here with some friends that were from the Czech Republic. That's one of my unique gifts. And then I've collected some of the tracks I've been to. I have a little display and of dirt from tracks all over the world. I've got dirt up there from Germany, Czech Republic, England, Italy, Daytona Beach, Florida, Costa Mesa. I probably have probably 20, 30 different little containers of dirt that I display in my office here. That's always been interesting, and people like to look at that.
So you have DG from every track, all these different, like a little case. Like here's Costa Mesa and here's Poland. I never heard of that before. That's pretty cool. That's pretty funny. All right.
Okay. I actually have in these little plastic containers. This one says Terrazzano, Italy. It's got that limestone. This particular one is Najbach, Austria. It was a speedway track I went to in Austria. And this one is Coventry, England. Coventry, England was the first speedway track I went to in Europe. As a kid growing up, I'd always see the overseas finals and the all the big races in England always happened at Coventry. And I can remember reading about it and always having a dream of going there. And then in 1996, it's my first trip to Europe, and I went to England. I had no clue what to do, where to go. So I went to Coventry, England, and first met up with Angela Pierce, who is one of the administrators of the BSPA. I went to their office on Wood Street in Rugby, England, and she arranged for me to go to Coventry, England. And it was the first English or Speedway race that I saw. It was a league match. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think Billy Hamill was racing for Coventry at the time. So it was a big deal for me. And as I was building my career, I ended up being team manager for the American team, only just because nobody else was doing it at the time. And it ended up being at Coventry, and it was our team really was in a battle with Russia for like third place, and they ended up beating us. Billy Gennaro was deemed excluded because of a Russian rider. Billy had run into the Russian rider and knocked him off, and so he got disqualified, and we ended up losing the match and not going on. But it was pretty interesting that I was able to go as a team manager and actually be a part of the team in America. And going to Coventry as a kid, it was a place that it was just like the holy grail of speedway racing in England. And I remember I got there, Brian, and I pulled up to the place, and I went, man, this place is old. And it was kind of a dump. Really was. It wasn't at all what I envisioned, but Coventry for many years was more about the track than the facility itself. And it was an old dog racing track, and so it had that there. But I've been to some great speedway races there, and that's where Billy Gennaro rode as a rider. Was it Coventry?
Billy was really good in Coventry. He really had a good run for the Bees over there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, he was a very charismatic rider. At the time, Billy was, he was on the rear wheel partying with everybody else. And yeah, he was very, very popular racing speedway for the Bees.
Yeah, he had a good run, and they won, I think, a few championships when Billy was there towards the end of his career. And he just was really he was really a star rider for the Coventry Bees. And he was really, really a top-notch, American rider. I mean, this guy was good when he rode for Coventry.
He still is.
Yes, he's good. Yeah, Billy, how many United States championships has he won? Like 10 or something?
Yeah, he's won 10. As I remember, I think Mike Bass had 7 national championships. And then Greg came along, and Greg got it up to 9. And then, is it 9? 8 or 9, but he did exceed Bass. Greg was the first one. And then along came Gennaro, and Gennaro's extended it to 10 now. And I don't remember what Greg had. It seemed like it was 8 or 9.
Yeah.
I think Gennaro, a lot of people say that it's an easier time to win national championships, but I don't agree with that particularly. None of them is easy, but I think it's it takes a more skilled rider to win a championship with a Grand Prix style of consecutive rounds of the championship rather than just one night. Generally, when the guys win one night, they can have a really good night racing, but they also have to have a little bit of luck to go along with it too, which means that probably not likely, if it has to involve luck, it's probably not the best rider that's going to win. And that's what the series does of consecutive events. It really does reward the better quality rider, I guess. Where if he has an unlucky night over a 5-round series, definitely he can make up for it and end up with a championship. But it's hard.
It's really hard. I mean, it's just, it's really, I don't know. Those guys, I mean, we have a lot of young Americans that want to be in that position, and they have to work really hard, and they have to have a lot of luck, and they have to have good backing, and they just have to be really super talented. I mean, like extra human. You know, their level of riding has to be like out of this earth. You know.
Yeah. And I tell you, one guy right now, in my opinion, that's poised to become national champion very soon is Max Rommel. And he proved that last night, Saturday night in Bakersfield, and he's been proving it at Paris. And, I would never count Gennaro out, because once Gennaro gets focused on what he wants, he's pretty darn hard to beat. But one guy that's been beating him, well, there's two guys really. It's Max Rommel and probably Brock Nickel right now that are really the top riders in America. And Luke Becker's right there too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we had Max Romo on the show, and he's really determined to win that AMA #1 on his back. I mean, that's his goal. If he doesn't go to Europe, he's gunning heavy for that title.
Yes, in 2019, he made several trips up here to Auburn racing just on our regular nights. His manager and mechanic and engine tuner is Lewis Hughes. And Lewis told me that the reason they wanted to come up here so much was because, they're gunning for the #1 spot, and they wanted to race with Gennaro here because they knew the national championship was going to end here in that particular year, and that he would have a chance to maybe if he'd come up here on more of a regular basis rather than just showing up for one round of the national, that maybe it would increase his odds of dethroning Gennaro. But of course that didn't happen, and 2020 didn't see a national championship for the adults, and so I think really Max and Lewis have both really turned up the volume on their opportunity to maybe dethrone Gennaro, and that's nothing but exciting. And I can tell you, the one guy that probably gets excited about it is probably Gennaro. He enjoys the competition. He'd rather battle to the end, and of course wants to win. But I think Gennaro, Bart Bass, all these guys really like good competition.
Oh, those guys are all champions, no doubt. And I mean, Gennaro's he's gonna be facing Father Time here because he's like in his 30s, and then you have like Max and Brock and Luke. They're all coming up into their prime, so something's got to give pretty soon. So you're going to see a changing of the guard. Sad to say, he's only won 10 national championships. That's nothing.
Yeah.
Oh, he's so good. And, you're going to see a changing of the guard because, these guys are racing in Europe. They're racing really good. And Gennaro's still racing really good. So you can't at all count him out because that guy is a rider. I mean, he's great. So you have a sort of a clashing of the old time and the young riders, and you're going to eventually have a changing of the guard. That's just inevitable with everybody. So it's going to be fun to watch. Because I know Billy Gennaro, he has a racer's heart that doesn't stop, and so you're going to really have an epic battle when you have Gennaro, and then you have Becker out there, and you have Nickel, and you have Romo out there. I mean, that's going to be fireworks.
Yeah, I have to say these guys are all great competitors, but the one thing Speedway brings to the world of motorsports racing is that these guys perform with each other as gentlemen. They couldn't do their job without understanding that their life's on the line and their competitor, even though they're really so competitive, they really have to like each other. They have to rely on each other to keep from wrecking themselves because these bikes don't have brakes. They handle really strange. They're not like regular motorcycles. And, like the flat track game, they're really good riders in flat track, but the Speedway guys are so much closer and so much more reliant on each other not to wreck. And, you see guys like Max Rummel and Billy Gennaro, they're fierce competitors. But I tell you what, both of them have learned to rely on each other to be able to perform their jobs. A really good combination is Brock Nickel and Max Rummel. Those guys have been racing each other since they're kids. And I think both of them are really shooting for Gennaro. And I thought at Bakersfield that Rummel really had the setup beat for everybody. And I don't know, really, I didn't get to visit with Gennaro in the pits and see really what was going on, but he seemed like he struggled a little bit with his setup. Not putting Billy down at all because he's a great racer, but the setup on Speedway bikes is really, really, really important for the guys to be able to capture the lead, make passes, and stay in good control of their bikes. And Max seemed to really be on a better setup bike, in my opinion. He had it dialed in. Lewis had him a rocket ship going on there.
Max has a great team, and Lewis and his team is really sensational, maybe one of the best. And when Max, he won almost every main event at Paris in 2020. He was the number one point getter. He was hard to beat. I mean, you beat Max Romo, and you were lucky, and he was great. So Max is just, he's come on and just shined, more and more every year with that hunger. He almost got the national championship the year that Brock Nickel won, was 2018 or something. And, Max was winning that race. And then Brock went ahead and made a fantastic fourth place to first place finish and beat Max. And I'm sure Max is biting at the chip to avenge that loss. And, Max is a champion, and, he will do it for sure.
Yeah, I agree with that. And we've got some really good young riders coming up. We've got some really savvy veterans. I'm looking forward to staging some Speedway races here in Auburn again. And of course, attending some of our great American Speedway races in California here mostly. And hope to see things expand a little bit in the future across the country. And I think we've got a bright future with our young kids coming up. My concern is that they all want to run off to Europe and find their fame there, but we've got to really give them a reason to stay here, and that's having bigger and better purses, having more sponsors available to the riders, and continuing to build venues and big events here in America. Really, the secret isn't particularly sending them to Europe, although if that's what they want to do, they should and can. And of course, we support that, but we always want them to come home and race at home where they came from.
Oh, absolutely, because we've made these stars and we like to see them. So, we wish everybody the best of luck. And Dylan got signed by a team this week, and so he's a gladiator now. So he has this dream, of being in the European League there. So it's, some of these guys are achieving the dream. So that's really great.
Yeah, I wish all these young luck, whatever they want to try to achieve. I've been to England. They don't have bright lights over there, although they got good Speedway programs and great races. I just wish a kid like Dimmel coming from California and going to England has got to be an uphill battle, and some of them struggle, some of them do really great. I hope they do great.
Yeah, we're pulling for everybody, and not everyone has exactly. It's hard to actually be a successful British League rider, especially at the elite level. You have to average like 7 points, and to be cold turkey from United States and go over there and average like 7 points. That's pretty amazing. So it's difficult to do that. It really is against that level of riders. I mean, you're racing against some of the best in the world, and then you have to average 7 points. That's really difficult. So not everyone's going to make it. We wish everybody would make it, but some of those people will make it. Some of the riders, and some of the riders may not make that. So it's challenging even once they get there to stay there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to kind of say. It's a challenging place. Europe is a challenging way to go. I can remember first going over there. I kind of helped Billy Gennaro when he was racing the under 21 events, and we went over there. It was a real eye opener for him and his family and what they were trying to achieve. But he had a good career, I think, in England. I think he really did, and found a lot of success. Some of the guys that have gone over there have found success, but then lost it. And it's hard to grab that ring. It really is.
Yeah.
So
Billy found that success. I was surprised actually that Billy came home, because they would have kept Billy in Coventry until the track was no longer. I mean, Billy he was an e-ticket rider. I mean, the only thing stopping Billy was Billy, like not wanting to ride, because Billy would always be welcome. I'm positive there, because he was such a great rider. He had so much success for Coventry. They won titles when Billy was riding. He was literally a star rider. So those kind of riders, they're the ones in control of their destiny, whether they stay or go, because all the promoters want those kind of riders on their team.
Yeah, I think it's like I said, I want all the kids to stay here and find success here. I want American Speedway to become a place for English guys, Polish guys to come and race. And that's when we're going to really find success, when the world wants to come here, like they used to be.
Yeah, the 70s was a great time for making money, for success. And, if those things come back to American Speedway, the money especially, that's when you're going to have the riders from overseas wanting to come and earn some of that money, which would be really great. We'd love to see the heyday of Speedway come back. That would be one of the best things that ever happened, really.
Yeah, it's difficult in the world today because there's so much more going on. In the 70s, Speedway was one of the more important things to do, but now we all have baseball games, football games, everything from NASCAR, other stuff that's capturing our attention. And in a way, Speedway's a little bit old-fashioned. If you look at the way that the races are run and the bikes, the way they look and everything, it's a little bit odd. But I think, to me, there's not really much gimmick in racing. Really, it's the exciting racing that pulls Speedway up and causes it to rise to the top, because there's not many people that go to Speedway races that don't really like them.
That's true.
It's exciting. It's an exciting man and machine kind of racing. And the fact that the bikes don't have brakes is a real oddity, and it's really gritty and dirty. It really is.
It is. It's a fun sport. And what's cool about Speedway, like all motorsports, really, like the motorcycle sports, is that it's man and machine against man and machine. It's not, except for team racing, it's really kind of like, your setup and, all these factors come in, luck, your skill, all these things. And that's what kind of makes Speedway so unique and nice, is that, if you're just off a little bit, one guy could be taking you out, versus another. So, and the only thing that's predictable about Speedway is that it's unpredictable.
Yeah, that's probably true. I would agree with that. It's funny. I say this a lot. There's no computers on a speedway bike. There's no fuel injection. The only controls are a throttle and a clutch, and that's it. And it's really where racing was born. It was racing motorcycles on oval tracks.
Yeah, I mean, flat track was around in like 1910. You know, they were racing the flat track on this called. They built these wood planks, and they were racing. They would put dirt on them, and they would race on this like half-mile track, really long track. Cost $100,000 to build a speedway track, and they lasted like 10 to 20 years, and then the termites ate the wood because they'd water the track, and then the water would go into the wood, the plywood, and then they would rot, and then the termites would eat the wood, and then they had to get rid of this $100,000 speedway track that only lasted a few years, and then eventually those faded out, and then they start building regular speedway tracks with the dirt without all that plywood. We don't need the termites, right?
You're talking about board track racing.
Yeah, the board track. That was before the speedway is the board track, and they were racing like flat track and kind of before the JAP was even invented, because the JAP was invented in 1927, and so the board track was running from about 1910 or 15 to about 1930 or so, and then it fizzled out for about maybe 15 or 20 years. But the board track was really where Speedway really began, you know, back in those days. And
what is that?
What's that?
What is that? It sounds like a pig squealing.
That's my bird. She's being naughty. Bebop, come here, Bebop. My bird is like a troublemaker. I'm sorry. She's like outside. She's always like trouble. She's yelling. She's like a child. She's yelling right now. She wants attention all the time. Let me see if I can get. Did you see? You haven't seen Bebop. Let me get her. Hang on a second before we go. Where's Bebop? I want to see Bebop. She's very noisy here, and she's yelling. I fed her some food before the show started, and she's a cockatoo, a white cockatoo, and she likes attention. If she's with me, she's not yelling. I didn't really want to do my show with her, but yeah, she's like a child. She's like cries if she's alone, and she's a pain.
Listen, Brian, just to kind of end things here, I just wanted to invite everybody up to Auburn. A lot of people that I meet, especially people that are at the tracks in Southern California, kind of wonder about where Auburn even is. We've got a really good flight connection in Sacramento from Southern California. Almost all of the Ontario, San Diego, Orange County, LAX, Burbank, we all have direct flights to Sacramento on Southwest Airlines. And I just would like everybody to come up and check out our track. I think we've got one of the best ones in all of Speedway. It's got to be the most beautiful one, that's for sure. It has more history than most of the tracks, being that this is the gold country and where California was really built out of this community here. It's a great tourist attraction here. We've got budget hotels all the way up to kind of expensive, nice bed and breakfast kind of places. We've got some great restaurants in our old Auburn, the original gold rush town of Auburn. And we really produce some of the best speedway races around. We're the only track that on a regular Friday night, we're running both handicap and scratch. The riders do such a great job here racing the handicap racing. It's really become great. There's nothing like seeing Gennaro coming off the 60-yard line and passing 5 other riders to win the event as he's doing a wheelie across the finish line. He's really good at it. Bart Bass is another good one. And I just like everybody to come up. If you got any questions about visiting Auburn, you could definitely check in with the Chamber of Commerce on their website. Check out Fast Friday's website, make contact with me, and I'll answer any people that come here all the time. Call me up, and I just fill their head full of information and what to do around Auburn. And once a month during the summer, we have a classic car show that it's called Cruise Night. And they close off a main street here in Auburn, and they must have probably 100 to 150 classic cars up there of all sorts and types. We've got a lot of entertainers that live in this area, from rock bands to movie stars, stuntmen, dignitaries like Newsom are actually from the Auburn area communities. And yeah, come check us out. We're a real good destination place, not only because of the Speedway, but because of the community and the beautiful surroundings here in Auburn, from the American River and rafting to hiking, mountain biking, motorcycle trail riding. It's all here in Auburn, and the summertime weather is absolutely beautiful here.
Awesome. Before we close, Dave, we're going to show a little clipping of what you just talked about, a Fast Friday race.
Four fastest men of the night, we're ready to go. Charlie Vegas, 5-star Spark Fest. Coming down. Coming back strong on the inside.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I'm pretty proud of that. Our guys put on a great show out here for the fans, and the fans love all the riders. And of course, typical of Speedway, after the races are over, a lot of people come down bring their kids and get autographs down into the pits. And hey, sometimes I have to click the lights off to get them to go home.
That's great. That's a nice place. And if you want a good Speedway venue, you want to go to Fast Fridays, because you're opening what? Your tentative date is May. What was it, Dave?
May 28th. Yeah, generally we're running the second Friday in May, and we've kind of postponed that a little bit because I think maybe the first couple of weeks in May still might be a little bit roughed up by the COVID bug. And so we're going to give it a few extra weeks. And like I said, we're going to do something on that night. If it doesn't work out, we might have to postpone it another week or two. But we're hopeful that we're going to have a Speedway season here in 2021.
And there's a practice coming up this Saturday, right?
Yeah, we do have a practice. Flat trackers, peewees, youth Speedway riders, sidecars. All the top guys, everybody will come out and give it a go, and we're going to continue to do it at least once or twice a month until we can get our season rolling. In the past, our Speedway season starts after the annual rodeo that's been here April 28th, 29th, and we've got a couple weeks to get the track back in order. And I tell you what, our track building crew's always done a great job converting it from a messy, dirty rodeo to a very clean Speedway racing facility. And you'd never know the rodeo happened here. But this year, because of COVID, they've canceled it, and it looks like they're going to try to reschedule it in September or October. And so we're going to have a green light to go right into our Speedway season. And In the past, they've had us tear down walls and regrade the track, and it's always been a little bit of a nightmare for me and our crew putting everything back together. We've always pulled it off, and generally we get a little bit of rain around there too, so it can be particular. So I'm going to enjoy actually starting a little bit later, and then maybe having the opportunity to carry on with grass on our infield. I was just out there grooming it up there today a little bit to get things ready for the practice, and maybe that'll carry on to a nice professional look for 2021. I'm open.
Well, we're hoping you do that, and we're hoping that when they do the track for the other event, that they do it after the Speedway season concludes, so you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah. We'll see what happens exactly. Their issue is, of course, they're a PCRA, Professional Rodeo Association. So they've got other venues and stuff that they have to go in between. So hopefully they'll be able to secure a good date.
And that would be great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Dave, for joining us here in the Hive and hanging out. It's been really a pleasure.
For me too, Brian, and I appreciate you inviting me. Thank you very much to all the people that have watched and hopefully have stayed in tune. And I've really enjoyed reminiscing a little bit. And like I said, I feel I'm a pretty lucky guy, and I've got a real wealth and knowledge of Speedway racing, especially here in America and a little bit in the world. And it's a spectacular sport that I definitely will work very hard in preserving and keeping the momentum moving forward, especially after this COVID thing. And I'm going to stick with it and make sure that Speedway gets built back up where it deserves to be.
Very good. Well, that's it. Dave Joyner of Fast Fridays. This guy is a remarkable guy, and we wish you all the best. And we're excited. Everybody's excited about Fast Fridays coming back. Even this weekend, we're going to have some practice, and hopefully some of the young guns will be out there testing out the track. So we encourage everybody to go riding, support the Fast Fridays track, and get some practice in before the May opening, because you're going to need that practice. It'll be good. And local riders can go out and hang out and have some social time and just really have a good time there at Fast Fridays this Saturday during the day, right? It's a day event you have going on?
I think the scheduled start time's 4:00. It's been staying light until almost 6. So we'll probably click on the lights at the end, but it's scheduled to go till 7. So.
Oh, very good. So about 4 to 7, get out there and spin some hot laps. That sounds like a good time. So thank you. Thanks, Dave. That's Dave Joyner. Dave Joyner. Thank you, Dave. Awesome guy. Thank you for joining us. Really appreciate it. That was Dave Joyner. He's a cool guy, and he told us a lot. He's pushing hard to have the Speedway back at the Fast Fridays in Auburn area, and he has a remarkable group of guys. I mean, those guys can ride. He's got an all-star lineup up there, so we're really rooting for Dave and Fast Fridays, and we want that track to open. We need more tracks open. We have the Paris, the Bakersfield, and in New York, the New York tracks, it looks like it's going to be opening up. So a lot of these tracks are opening up. So we just need the Costa Mesa and the industry, and Dave Joyner is going to work really hard to get that Fast Fridays opening in May. And also, we have a big practice event this Saturday from 4 to 7 p.m. So please support Dave and that track, and have a good time. So thank you so much for joining us today at the Hive. We have the Northern California Week in the Hive, and we had a good program here. And tomorrow night we have Reese Todd. He's going to be on about 7:30 p.m. California time. He's a real good rider. He has a brother, Renton Todd, who's a developing young rider as well. So we're going to have a really good time here in the Hive. And we just got some good shows going on. So if you get a chance, if you haven't subscribed and ring that bell, you can be notified because we have shows almost every day and we have some good times here in the Hive. So we want to thank you so much for joining us today and hanging out with Dave Joyner, the promoter of Fast Fridays in Auburn. He's really a great guy, and we wish him all the best of 2021 and beyond. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. We had a nice long show today, and we covered a lot of really cool topics. And like I say, it was a good time in the Hive. So thank you so much for joining us and subscribing to the channel. And we're going to go ahead and wish you all the best. Ride safe. I'm going to go riding right now. I like to ride motorcycle. I ride every day, especially after the show. I feel like going like the wind. And we're going to have a good time. Stay safe. Stay on two wheels. And we're going to see you tomorrow night for the Reese Todd Show. Have a good night.